Welcome back to Politics Matters. I'm Jan Painter. We're talking today with Professor Frederick Schauer about amendment issues. I thought it was interesting, the one most recently, the 27th, which took so long, of course, has to do with congressional pay. So that one went through.
Well, that's why I said 16 and not 17.
Yes.
I can count. Actually, the 27th Amendment was originally one of the first 12 amendments in the Bill of Rights. It took 200 years, more or less, to have it ratified. But in terms of amendments proposed after the Bill of Rights, the original 12, one of which became the 27th, we've only ratified 16. So, as I say, so difficult that trying to amend the Constitution turns out to be a bad political strategy for anybody. I might mention as an aside here, in this original enumeration of 12, the First Amendment was not the first. So when we hear people and journalists say the First Amendment was first for a reason, that's pie in the sky thinking. I think it was third or fourth or something like that.
I have to ask you, what amendments not discussed today are, in your judgment, most overlooked in terms of their impact on the lives of Americans and the way we live now?
It's probably, there are none that we haven't discussed that are most overlooked, because I think the one we haven't discussed very much, except in passing, is the 14th. The 14th Amendment is not just about a post-Civil War amendment that dealt with issues of race. It has become the vehicle for privacy, the vehicle for protection of forms of equality such as gender discrimination and many others other than just race discrimination. Most, but not all, of the interesting constitutional action these days comes in terms of interpretations of the 14th Amendment. These words, life, liberty, or property without due process of law, are the words in which that the Supreme Court uses to extract meaning depending on the views of the Supreme Court justices. And that's why the Supreme Court's important.
Professor, what is the current state of legal debate in this age of emails, internet chat rooms, Facebook, and Twitter concerning the right of people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable search and seizure, and as cited in the Fourth Amendment?
Okay, I think there are two very different issues here. A lot of times when people worry about privacy, they worry about it in the context of knowledge of or publication of information about them by, broadly speaking, non-governmental entities, whether it be credit bureaus or banks or newspapers or whatever. The privacy that is now understood to be part of the Constitution is a protection against the government and only against the government. Protection of my privacy against a bank, against any other private institution is a matter of statute. It may be a matter of common law. It's not a matter of constitutional law. Doesn't mean it's not important. It doesn't mean there are not important debates. And there are very extensive statutory, state and federal protections of privacy. But the Constitution only protects us against governments and not against non-governmental entities. In terms of privacy, most of the Supreme Court decisions about privacy have dealt with abortion, contraception, and the like on the one hand, or the protection of criminal defendants through the Fourth Amendment that you quoted against unreasonable searches and seizures and the like. Most of the forms of privacy that people worry about do not involve either of those. And whether the Constitution protects against, for example, government databases is something that the Supreme Court has never touched. It hinted that there might be some protection. The hint was 20 years ago, but direct Supreme Court decisions about government databases and all of this that lots of people are worried about, again, it's pretty much a blank slate.
How do you feel the Kagan nomination will go?
People should not listen to anything that I have to say. She is a former colleague of mine at Harvard and a good friend, so I am not even close to impartial on the issue. As with the Sotomayor proceedings of a year ago, we will witness a big political charade in which senators and the nominee and public figures all claim that they are just neutrally interpreting the Constitution as they see it. That's false. The words are too vague. The precedents are too conflicting. The views of justices, the first order political, ideological attitudes of the justices matter. I hope, as Elena Kagan herself urged 10 years ago, I hope there will be a fair amount of actual substantive discussion about what her views are about substantive issues, because that's what most indicates likely votes on constitutional questions. Unfortunately, what we saw a year ago was worse rather than better than what we'd seen a year before. We saw litigants, the New Haven firefighters, baseball pitchers who were involved in the baseball strike. It's political theater, and it's not going to help very much.
When reading our Constitution, what strikes most people is the astonishing freshness of the document, the way in which our founders foresaw, planned for, and anticipated in the most prescient ways the eventualities and crises which would arise for us as a nation. They produced a durable and elastic document programmed for growth and change. They strove for balance, fairness, and humanity in our laws. They focused as well on the need to work together while anticipating the fractious nature inherent in a diverse democracy bristling with various points of view. The framers indeed summoned the better angels of our nature, understanding that we would fall, yet cheered us on in the getting up again. Intercooperation, shared goals, and that very American drive to move ever forward. They bequeath to us the aspiration for that perfect union in spite of the manifestation of our many differences. Thank you again very much, Professor Schauer, for being with us today. Thank you for listening to our conversation. We would like to hear from you with all questions and concerns. You can email us at info@politicsmatters.org. Thank you again. I'm Jan Painter, and this is Politics Matters.